Money is a form of energy, and energy wants to be in motion all the time. And it's important to stop and ask, what can we do to facilitate that? Is there something we're doing that's creating resistance and impeding that? And that comes down to a lot of the beliefs and actions that we take in our everyday lives. But if you look at money itself, it wants to flow. And so everything we can do to help keep it in motion and accelerating the velocity of it, that's a good thing. And then we can benefit the results of that. And that really helps to enhance our lives. It allows us to be more impactful in the world, to help others, and to create a better place for all of us.
Great title for a podcast, Blessons.
Thank you. Yes, I love it.
What a great meditation.
We are here to learn in the school of life.
I'm all about believe. You're about spreading blessings. It's great.
What about your blessings? What's the biggest blessing of life?
What a great question.
Because it's the Blessons podcast, I have to ask you, what is your biggest lesson in life?
My biggest lesson in life.
A whole lot of conversations with people about life and how those things manifest as blessings and lessons, and sometimes both.
It's my connection.
You're going to get schooled.
The journey is the journey.
What you and me are searching for are the blessings in this life.
Remember the reality of how sweet people are.
Spread blessings around the world.
You are the most remarkable energy. You make me pause, make me excited, make me think, and make me spontaneously come up with an answer. This is another one of those great moments in time in my life. Thank you for reaching out to ask if I would do the show.
Welcome back to Blessons, friends. Today, we are going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, money. Most of us want more of it, and we want to protect and grow the money we have. Ask yourself this question right now. What would you say is your current level of financial literacy? I hope it will be a little higher after you hear today's conversation. My guest, Fred Moskowitz, is an expert on investing and wealth building, and his mission is to help people become self-guided authorities of their financial lives. So many of us don't have a clue what to do with our money and how to build real wealth for ourselves and our families. But when we talk about the blessings and the lessons of life, we must include blessings in the financial part of life, because we need money to survive and to have freedom and fulfillment. It's a big and necessary part of a meaningful life. So let's dig into it. Welcome, Fred Moskowitz, to the show.
Thank you, Mitzi. It's great to be here.
So, Fred, what is it that you love about money?
For me, Mitzi, it comes down to this. Money is a form of energy, right? And energy wants to be in motion all the time. And it's important to stop and ask, what can we do to facilitate that? Is there something we're doing that's creating resistance and impeding that? And that comes down to a lot of the beliefs and actions that we take in our everyday lives. But if you look at money itself, it wants to flow. And so everything we can do to help keep it in motion and accelerating the velocity of it, that's a good thing. It is a good thing. And then we can benefit the results of that. And that really helps to enhance our lives. It allows us to be more impactful in the world, to help others, and to create a better place for all of us.
I totally agree with everything you just said. And I can't wait to talk more about this. It's so exciting. A lot of people are afraid of money. We fear it.
Yeah.
We're afraid to spend it. How often do you say, in fact, I said this morning, shame on me. My daughter asked me for money for something. She has been asking me for money, and I've given her a lot of money, let me just tell you. But she asked me today, she said, just one more thing. There's a concert I really want to go to. And immediately in my mind, I think concert tickets, $200, dinner, whatever it is it's going to be. And I told her no. And I'm mad at myself, although I did give her a lot of money for some other things just yesterday, last week, a lot. Like we're talking in the thousands for my child over the past month. But I felt like I had to put the brakes on it. But I feel like that's a limiting belief on my part. What do you think?
Another way to look at it is, can you turn it into a learning lesson? Can you find a way to, yes, give her or help her to get what she wants, turn it into a learning lesson that is going to far outlast the having the money for or enjoying the event? And is there an opportunity there?
Yeah.
And maybe you said no already, but no one's to say you can't later go back and change your mind and offer some other opportunity or plan to say, hey, let's come up with a plan to let you achieve what you want. And so that could be another way to approach it. But yeah, you're totally right. Especially with children, it's constant over and over again.
Constant.
And we may hear these messages. People end up developing all kinds of limiting beliefs around
know.
money. We can't afford that, or money doesn't grow on trees is the big one,
Yeah.
which I think is quite ironic, because if you think about what money is printed on and where does that product actually come from, it creates a different imagery, right? And
Yeah.
in that relationship. So instead of we can't afford that, what if instead we ask the question, how can we afford that? What can we do differently to create that opportunity to allow for us to enjoy that? And I'll tell you what, if the thing is important enough, especially children are very resourceful and creative, they'll figure out some way. They'll come up with an idea,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll need guidance and help. And this now turns into a learning lesson.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're so right, because I believe that if we just continue to overgive financially to our children, then we essentially cripple them from being, it's like going the opposite way. So I don't want her to have those limiting beliefs that I grew up with. I definitely don't want to create those. And I definitely fear by saying no that I am creating that for her, which I want to avoid. So I love your idea of maybe we can work together to find a solution that will allow you to get what you want.
Yeah.
Without overgiving and without giving that impression of the limiting belief either. So that's a tricky middle ground for a parent.
It is. It is. And it's a discovery process. It's a part of growing up, of maturing. And how much, think of this, right? How much more satisfaction would there be for a child and adolescent to earn money on their own in a creative way, and then they have it and they can go out and enjoy the experience they wanted? Like, how much more enjoyment is there if they earn the money themselves rather than if you just gave them the money?
Yeah, exactly. And
Right?
there's
There's
so many.
appreciation
Oh my
that
gosh.
comes into play.
That is so true. And I think that we can see online, there are many young people just crushing it financially. They are finding creative ways. I don't know how common it is. I do think it's pretty rare to really hit it huge with something like being an influencer, things like this. But there are other things people can do. So they're maybe not going to make $2 million next month, but they'll make enough so that they can do the things they enjoy.
Yeah. Is it out of the question to make $200 or $2,000? That's pretty realistic. And that changes the whole thing. And then once anyone has that empowerment, they say, hey, I like this. Can I do this in a different way, or expand it in a different way? And that's how entrepreneurship happens. It's
Yeah.
all born out of a desire to achieve something. And when you pair that up with creativity and persistence and hard work, now things start to happen. Now you start to move the needle.
Yes, that's right. So just thinking about the discrepancy between earnings, different people, and what makes one person feel fulfilled, what makes another person feel fulfilled. What do you consider to be a definition of wealth?
My definition of wealth is this: if you had to stop working, how long would you be able to survive financially? And so this comes down to, for some people, the only income they have is their paycheck from their job, right? And so if you stop working due to illness or some circumstance, then your income drops off pretty quickly. Now, if you're earning money through a business that you own and work in, you're involved in the business, so that involvement may stop, and maybe you have others in the business that can take over for you, maybe not. That would be a more gradual. Now, if your income, you have income coming in from assets that you own that are generating income for you, whether you're working or not, that can continue on. And so for me, I always say wealth, you can measure it not by how much you have, but how much time could you survive if you didn't work anymore? And if you had a lot of money saved up, maybe you had a nice emergency fund, you had some things, well, you would have to spend those down. And then eventually one day it would run out, right? And this unfortunately happens a lot to people that are retirees. They outlive their money and they run out. But if you own assets that are producing income, that's going to go and on, whether you're working or not. If you own real estate, rental real estate that's generating income for you, if you own mortgage notes that you own and those are generating income for you, maybe you own a business or you have some kind of a digital media product or book that you're getting royalties from that. These are all things that are assets that you own, and they generate income for you, but you're not doing any active work on them. Maybe you did up front, but ongoing, you're not. And so that's the way I measure wealth. It's always that, well, how long could you last without having to work? And that may be a very different definition than most people are used to, but this is where things can get really serious in financial situation. And I speak with so many people, investors, professionals, and I always talk about this. If your income were to stop, how long could you survive? And for some people, it's a week. For others, it's a month. And for others, maybe it's 6 months, a year. And so it's an important thing to consider because you never know what life throws at us.
That's right. I think that's an important question for everyone to ask themselves right now.
Yeah.
So, Fred, how did you get so interested in this topic? What is the story behind that?
Yeah, great question. And you're going to see how this ties into what we just talked about. Mitzi, I had a very long and successful career working as a computer engineer. I love that work. I grew up in the tech industry. I started my professional employment right around the time of the beginning of the dot-com boom. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you can remember back then, the tech industry was taking off. I just got on this wild roller coaster ride and it was amazing. I worked for startup companies. I worked for technology companies. I loved working in technology. And I loved doing the engineering work. I really did. And what happened was we had the dot-com boom years, and then that was immediately followed by the bursting of the dot-com bubble. And also around that same time, we had the September 11th terrorist attacks. So there's all this turmoil in the world going on. And what happened with the tech industry, bursting of the dot-com bubble, companies going under left and right, job market was in the toilet, layoffs everywhere. And so this made me realize that even though I loved my work, it didn't matter how good of an engineer I was. It didn't matter how dedicated of an employee I was. If things were not going well at the company I was working for or in the economy, I could quickly lose my job through no fault of my own. And I realized I was taking on this huge risk. The only income I had was my paycheck for my job. I was making a lot of money, but that was it. And so this inspired me to really get interested in building up other streams of income. I got interested in alternative investments. Why? Because alternative investments, it's all about investing outside the stock market. You're buying and building assets. And when you have that, it generates cash flow, generates income, whether I'm working or not. Have that money coming in. So over time, I really was able to diversify my income. And gradually that grew. One day came where I realized I was making enough income from my investments to cover all my living expenses. And so I realized that right there, from that point forward, I was going to be working at my engineering work because I wanted to, not because I had to.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's
So
a
it
game
really
changer.
changes. Yeah. Oh, huge perspective change. And so that's really what set me on that trajectory. And then over time, I really took to the world of investments and wanted to become an entrepreneur and started my business and really built that up. And so that was a big part of my evolution, my learning over many years. But I find it very rewarding. I speak with investors all the time, people from all walks of life, and I love sharing the concepts and ideas around financial literacy, how to develop that financial resilience so that you're better set up to take on the surprises and the stumbling blocks that life happens to throw at us. Because you know what? You don't learn this in school. Most
No.
people didn't even learn it at home, but
Right.
definitely not in school, definitely not in college. And so this is education that you have to take it upon yourself to pursue and learn. It's all out there. The information's out there. We have the internet today where you can learn about everything,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
but
So
it
when you
takes
were
initiative.
that's right. It does, because you're first of all, you're so right. We don't learn any of this in school. As I was thinking about what I was going to ask you, that was one of the things I wanted to touch on, because I, going through school, did have some kind of a financial class. And do you know what we learned how to do? We learned how to fill out a check. That's the only thing I remember from that class, filling out a check. And we don't even use those anymore. I do occasionally.
Yeah.
But it's so ironic. It's almost as if they don't want you to know this stuff.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. When I was working at different companies as an engineer, they would always have the retirement plan training. The administrators would come in and they would come in and teach you how the retirement plan works, 401k, which is great. It's a great benefit, right? If you're an employee, definitely, I say, take advantage of it. And they talk about the importance of diversification. And so in that plan, you might have like half dozen different options to choose from, right? However, the little distinction is that it's all stock market. So you're 100% in the stock market. What about owning some rental property, some rental real estate? What about having a side business that you own that maybe generates some income, generates some tax deductions for you, which can be very valuable? They're not going to teach you about that. You have to take your own initiative to learn about that.
Yeah.
And so these are all different strategies to reduce the risk of relying on your paycheck. And I always ask this question, like, how risky is your paycheck? And people say, well, What do you mean? My paycheck's not risky. I'm in a safe, secure job. Yeah, you might be right now, but things change, right?
Mhm.
Things change out of your control. And the way to really protect yourself is to have other sources of income, learn how to build that up. And there's so many different ways to do that.
Yeah, there are. It's interesting because that is what I started to learn about when I became a newly divorced person, newly single, because I would say that in my marriage, I was not financially literate at all. And I know this is the case for a lot of women. And I had to learn this. And what I did first thing was took some of the money that was my share after the divorce, and I purchased rental properties with that. Instead of parking it in a savings account or parking it in the stock market, I chose to do that. And it ended up, this was many years ago, and it ended up being one of the best decisions I ever
Yeah.
made.
Love it. Yeah, it's one of the best ways to build wealth. And you build wealth, and it's one of the two top tax benefits that are offered to us by the IRS is owning rental properties. One of the two. The second one is owning a small business. The IRS incentivizes, our government incentivizes these two activities. They need people to provide housing. They need people to rent out commercial properties so that businesses have a place to operate.
Mm,
It's needed. It's a needed service. And they incentivize it through the tax code by giving all these tax benefits to people.
that's
And
good to know.
yeah, and it's a game changer. And so this is how so much wealth has been generated. And you found this out firsthand. You
I
own a
did.
couple of rental properties over the long term, right? This is not get rich quick, it's get rich slow, like over a decade, let's say. And you can build some real wealth through that.
And
Now,
as the real estate appreciates, then you can sell those properties too, which
yeah,
I've
you
done
can.
many times. A way that I worked with this recently was I had in my latest rental property, I bought a duplex and I lived in the top for 3 years. If you live there and then you sell it after 3 years, if you live there for at least 3 years, you don't have to pay capital gains tax
Yep.
on that. So there are a lot of tricks, and I shouldn't call them tricks. They're strategies. They're
Yeah,
viable
there's
strategies.
strategies. They're available to virtually anyone.
Yeah.
And you have to learn about it. You don't need to go out and study the tax code, which is certainly not the most exciting reading to do, but you hire a good, competent CPA, tax advisors, let them guide you on your specific situation. And if you take their advice, you're going to do really well.
Yeah. Now, there's probably people out there thinking, I don't have enough money to buy a rental property. How could I possibly do that?
Yeah.
There are creative ways to finance purchase of real estate. Have
There-
you got any tips for people who don't have the money or think they don't have the money?
Yeah, there's that. And there's also people that say, hey, I don't have time
Mm,
because, yeah, takes time, and or they don't want to deal with tenants, or they don't want to deal with operating and managing property. All valid, right? It's not for everyone, but there's other ways. There's ways that you can create a partnership with other people. You can join into a pooled investment, right? This is something I teach about with mortgage note investing. Mortgage notes are something that everyone's familiar with because you
We have
use
one.
debt. Exactly. You're paying on one, right? You're
Right.
paying monthly payments on your house. Individuals can invest in those mortgages because there's a whole secondary market for mortgages to be bought and sold every day. Just about everyone has had their mortgage sold,
Mhm.
right, to another institution. This is customary. Individual investors can invest in mortgages and own them, and being the one receiving the monthly payments instead of the one making the monthly payments, which is great. That's a way to be involved in real estate. You don't have to manage the property. You don't have to deal with tenants. And you can be a passive investor investing in mortgage notes. There's all different strategies and ways to do that. This is what I teach about, and this is a big part of the business I'm in. And so it's all about talking to people that are professionals, learning different strategies, seeing which one's right for you. There are many ways, many strategies. Which is the one that's going to be the best fit for you and your lifestyle and the amount of time you have? Because let's face it, if you're a busy professional, focus on your career. You're making a high income, you want to put money to work, but you don't have time to be actively managing assets or an investment. And so you may want to look at passive strategies. Now, someone else may be in the opposite, where they have lots of time. And so they want to be hands-on. They want to own that rental property, just like you did, and get their hands involved. Great. So you have active investment strategies that you can learn from and execute.
Mm-hmm.
And so it all comes down to, for each individual person, which is the right fit. And what may be right today may not be right 5-10 years down the road too. And things change, circumstances change as well. I certainly see this with investing in general, risk tolerance. When you're young, in your 20s and 30s, you have a lot more risk tolerance than someone that's over 50 and maybe they're looking at retirement coming soon. Now, eventually you get to a point where instead of being focused on the growth of capital, you transition to being more focused on the preservation of your capital, where you're okay with taking on less risk in order for having more security. And that's
Yeah.
more of a priority. And so these are dynamic patterns that change over the course of time.
My dad is 83 years young. Every morning, he sends my sister and I and all his grandchildren a good morning message. It's always something uplifting, positive, and encouraging. And it always says, "I love you." We all look forward to this, and we know that Granddad won't be around forever. So we really cherish these messages of love and empowerment. My dad loves to say, every day is a new opportunity. And that is what he taught me. That, along with how to work smarter, hold family dear, and go after my dreams. I know there are people out there who go through the motions every day with no one saying good morning, no encouraging word, and to support a positive mindset. And there are others who are doing all the right things, but still need a little nudge to create and maintain positive habits throughout the day. So in my dad's honor, I've created Your Positive Moment. Research clearly shows the benefits of positivity and connection. A recent Gallup poll showed a significant percentage of the world is lonely. Your Positive Moment solves these problems. These are messages that come directly to your phone first thing in the morning, so you can begin every day on a high note. The message includes a loving greeting, an affirmation, a daily reflection, and an easy action step to get you going in the direction of growth and fulfillment and transformation, and to help you stack up good habits. A simple daily message has the power to change your life. Get started with your beneficial morning message habit for free. yourpositivemoment.com.
There's so much to it. And it's so fascinating. But I love that you're talking about things that your money is active in. So even if it's passive income, which is not really ever totally passive, because your money is working, your money is flowing. And like you
Yes.
said at the beginning, like money is energy. And so if you just leave it somewhere in a savings account, it's not being active. It's not doing what it wants to do, which is move. And so you have all these different ways, which I love, that people can start small and grow their income. So
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the mortgage notes thing, because that's so interesting. So
Yeah.
what does that mean? How much money do you actually need to get started in investing in mortgage notes? And what are the basics?
Mortgage note investing is all about buying and owning the debt. You can buy debt is bought and sold every day on the secondary market. It's a huge secondary market. And if you buy a loan that was originated by a bank, you're basically taking over that legal contract. And you get all the rights and protections that the bank has. It's all in the loan documents. And so it's a very strong position to be in, because what happens is you're investing in an investment, it's backed by hard collateral. There's a house and property protecting that investment. So you have a lot of downside protection there. And you're able to earn a great rate of return. I would say above average from many other type of investments. And it really can be something that is hands off and doesn't require a whole lot of involvement once you're past the initial stages. And so it's a great way to ramp up and build up a portfolio. And if you want to be completely passive, you can invest in a mortgage note fund, where what that is, a note fund, the fund managers, they raise capital from investors, they pool it together, and then they'll go out to the secondary market and they're buying notes in bulk quantity. And what happens there is they're able to negotiate a better discount, which in turn drives up the rate of return. The investors benefit from the expertise, the experience of the fund managers, who are very well versed in analyzing the notes, running the due diligence, doing all the analysis, and managing the portfolio. And now the investors earn a rate of return that's passive.
What kind of rate of return are people earning from these investments?
It really varies. It depends on how much risk you're comfortable with, right? And it's like any other investment. If you're comfortable with more risk, you can earn a higher rate of return, but there's more risk there. That's the trade-off. I always say this: if you're starting out, if this is new, you're going to be better off go for the low risk strategies first to get comfortable, get acquainted, get educated. And then over time, once you have more experience, you can take on higher risk investments and earn a higher rate of return. And that's great. You're going to have a different comfort level. You're going to have more relationships in place. You're going to be around other individuals that are doing what you do. And so it really changes the environment. But it's like any other investment. Start out basic, simple, low risk. And over time, you can, if it's something you like and you learn about, your experience is going to grow. And then you can branch out into other areas. Now, I know you asked what's typical rates of return, right? So if we're talking about super safe mortgage notes, they might be at 5-6%, right? Rate of return. And then as we go up that scale of risk, we can get into 7, 8, 9, 10, 12%, even higher, right? You're getting into commercial loans, you're getting into mortgages for real estate investors that they're also called hard money loans. This is where you're getting into double digit area of returns. And you have everything in between. As far as how much money do you need, you could start out small. There are loans that have a $5,000 loan balance. And then this goes all the way up to jumbo loan territory, where we're talking about million and up value of properties and of debt and everything in between.
So if you
it's all out there.
If you bought somebody's balance of their mortgage that was low, like $5,000, $10,000 remaining on the mortgage, and you bought that,
Yeah.
you're going to earn what? The interest that they're paying?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes, you're
you
going to
get
earn the
set
interest.
the interest rate, or what if does it have to stay the same as what they are? So you're going to be looking for one that has a high interest rate, basically.
It's going to be whatever is in the loan documents. You
Okay.
can't change that.
You can
Yeah.
never change that. Okay. Gotcha.
Now, there are low interest rate loans. There are high interest rate loans.
Yep.
That's all out there. Variable rate as
Yeah.
well. What's important is you, as an investor, when you get involved in the mortgage note industry, is building relationships. That's how you get access to be able to buy notes.
The good ones.
Yeah. And then you can learn about, okay, here's different ones. One of the things that I teach about, and I learned this the hard way myself, is buying those small balance loans. It's the same amount of work for a $5,000 note and expense, same amount of work and expense for a $5,000 note as it is for a $50,000 note, as it is for a $500,000 note.
And
so
the advantage is you're going to be with it longer. Is that the advantage?
No, it's not necessarily, because loans can be paid off at any time. So you never know when someone's going to refinance or sell a property.
Okay.
You have no control over that. So it does introduce an element of randomness into this business space, this business area.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. It just brings up the idea for me that people are afraid of debt. So we have people talking about good debt, bad debt. So we have credit card debt versus mortgage debt versus car loan debt. Can you just talk about what the difference in your mind is between good debt and bad debt?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what's bad debt? It's most consumer debt, credit cards carrying a balance, not credit card itself, but the action of buying more than you can afford to spend in a month, and then having that balance and paying that down over time. You end up spending so much money on interest and charges. And that's a form of bad debt. Buying stuff that is going to depreciate in value, lose value, and doesn't help you in any way. Now, think about this. Here's an example. Let's say you are young, you're going to your first job, and you're working in an office in a professional environment. You have to look good. So you have your credit card. You go out and buy some nice clothes. You need it, right? This is reasonable. You need it for your work, whatever profession you're in. And so maybe it takes you a couple of months to pay that down, right? It's a work-related thing. And because of the work, you're going to earn an income, and you can use that to pay that down, right? That's fairly reasonable. If you take on debt in a business, let's say you buy a piece of equipment for your business, or you buy office computers, or you buy some kind of enterprise software package that you need, and you have to take on debt to do it. But the acquisition of those resources that you took the debt on for allows you to grow and expand your business. You have more income coming in, and in turn, you're going to use that income to pay down the debt. That's an example of good debt. If you take on debt to buy a rental property, and then now you have the rent from the property is paying down the debt, that's an example of good debt.
Yeah.
And so that's the distinction. But if you use debt to go out to eat dinner at a fancy restaurant every night and buy a bunch of doodads that are going to sit in your house, that's bad debt.
Yeah. So true.
Student debt, if you're going to get a degree in a field that pays well, I think that's good debt. You're going to take on that debt, but then you're going to come out of school and earn a much higher income, and then you pay back your student loans. I think that's a good debt.
But what if it's a career that isn't going to give you a
Yeah.
return on your
That's
investment?
different. Yeah, that's very different. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's important to look at that, whatever area you're studying, your degree, what's the job market like for someone that has that skill set?
Mhm.
Is there
Yeah.
opportunity there?
Yeah.
Uh,
I hear a lot of talk that people saying it's harder for young people to make it these days. Do you think that's true? Is it really harder? I mean, I had 2 jobs when I came out of college. What do you think about that? Is it harder these days?
there's definitely more competition in the job market, more people with degrees
Mm,
than there were years ago.
okay.
We have AI disrupting everything,
Yeah.
technology disrupting everything, but there's still opportunity out there, right? There's opportunity out there. It's not guaranteed if you graduate from college with a degree that you can just the next day find a job right away. It's going to take some work. It might take you a while, 6 months, a year, even if you graduated from a good school. So it's never easy getting started. It's almost like that first to go from 0 to 1
Mm,
is the hardest
mm,
to get started. But then if you get in your first job, now you start meeting some people, you start building some relationships that helps. It helps carry you forward. Getting started is always tough in anything, whether it's your career, starting a business, right? If you start a brand new business, what's the hardest thing? Getting that first customer.
mm,
That
mhm.
first customer, it's always the hardest one.
Then you gain momentum.
Yeah, you gain momentum. You get some testimonials from your first couple of customers, and you get some referrals maybe too, and things grow and build momentum, like you said. Exactly.
Mhm. You talked earlier about the idea of energy, money being energy, and you're very also practical. Like you're giving us a lot of very practical tips, but I feel like there's a practical side of money and there's a spiritual side of money. Do you think those can be separated or how do they work together in your life?
I think they work together. They really do. Let's take an example. Okay, here's something that happens a lot with real estate, especially in urban areas. Let's say we're in an inner city neighborhood and property values are going up, and then investors are coming in and buying dilapidated properties and fixing them up and increasing the value. And then the people that live in those neighborhoods, they start to get upset saying, oh, there's gentrification going
Mm.
on. We can't afford to live here anymore. All of these things. But if you think about this, was someone greedy because they went in and bought a property that was falling down and then fixed it all up and improved it, raised the value, made the neighborhood better? What did they do? They bought the property and then maybe they had to spend a significant amount of money fixing it up. So they hired contractors, plumbers, carpenters, painters to come in and work. How many jobs just got created right there? And then all the building supplies that had to be purchased, right? The lumber, the paint, the wire, the fixtures, the plumbing fixtures. And so all the employment at the factories that create those products and the retailers and distributors that sell them, all those jobs, a lot of people getting put to work, a lot of money in circulation. What about all this crew of construction contractors working at the house? When it's lunchtime, they're going to go to the sandwich shop down the corner to eat lunch every day. More money being spent, stimulation of the economy, right? All of these things that happen. And so the investor that is behind all this, yes, they bought a property and they're fixing it up and they increase the value. And yes, they're going to make a profit. But what about the ripple effect of all that money that got put into motion and how it impacted the community, the local community, as well as regional, with all of those different business activities that took place.
Yeah. It's good energy. It's good energy. And I understand that there are a lot of people who have resentment around other people's money.
Yeah.
They don't like to see that other people have what they don't have.
That's right.
And that is difficult. But at the same time, like you're saying, there are opportunities, but you have to be self-motivated. You have to be able to look for these opportunities and find them. And you mentioned this a couple of times, the idea of relationships.
Mhm.
How does that play into enhancing your financial life?
It's huge. It's huge. There's so many ways that come into play, not only in your financial life, but in life in general, right?
Yeah, because it's
relationships.
all one big
Yeah,
ball of wax.
it
It's
is.
all related.
It is for sure. If you want to learn about investing, about money, then start spending time around people that have been successful with that. You could go work for them. You can join groups and associations that they're involved in. Meet people, go to events, go to workshops, seminars, conferences. That's where you meet people and you're getting around a different group. And what happens there? Conversations are happening there. The stories are getting told. You're getting exposed to new ideas, new ways of thinking that rubs off on you. And so it's always that influence from the people in close proximity to you. And if you change up the places where that proximity is to a better, higher level place, that's going to impact you. And so this is the start of building those relationships. Seek out mentors that are successful in the area that you want to get better at. Ask them for help. Be of service. Offer to help and ask for help at the same time. And that's how you grow and progress. The best part about that, working with a mentor, coaches, is that you don't have to make the mistakes they made. They're going to keep you from making those same mistakes. And now you learn from someone else's mistakes. You know how you make a mistake in life and then you say, wow, I'm never going to do that again. Or maybe sometimes it takes 2 times before you say that. But what if instead you benefited from someone else having made that mistake? They made the mistake and now you don't have to, because they're providing guidance to you and they're going to keep you up. You skip that step, that mistake step, and just keep going on to the next one. And now you've accelerated your progression, your path.
I like that.
And a lot of times that's the value of having a mentor, having guidance from coaches, from people that experience already.
Yeah. I think that's very true. I found that to be true in my own life. And as you're talking, I just had a thought, sort of circling back to the person who lives next door to the house that's being fixed up and they feel as if they're being pushed out of their neighborhood. Maybe it's time for them to see the world differently. Maybe that's the push they need to help them and to improve their own lives.
It is. Wouldn't they be inspired to maybe, hey, I want to fix up my property and have pride of ownership too, to make it look nice. And I live here. I want to enjoy a nice place to live for myself and my family.
Or
right?
maybe I see things that are possible that I didn't realize were possible before, that now I can include my own life. Or maybe I need to change my life. Maybe there's something different for me. It's just, I think
it inspires.
Sometimes positive things can come in packages that look negative, but when you really unpack them, you find that there was good wrapped up in that package.
For sure.
Yeah. I love that. Yes. You have given us so much to think about, and gosh, we could just go on forever, but I want to know, I always ask the question about what are your biggest lessons and your biggest blessings in life. So we didn't talk that much about your personal story, but I want to see if you could give us the biggest money lessons and money blessings that come to mind when you think about that? So what are the biggest lessons that either money teaches us or that you can learn from money?
Yeah, one of the biggest lessons is money is going to flow. It wants to flow to where it's treated best. And
That's love
so
it.
if you can improve your skills on handling money, what to do with it, that's going to help in a major way. From making better decisions to making better investments, and even being able in a position to be able to make an impact with your money, making more money so that you can now turn around and help others,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Right.
support the causes that are important to you,
Mm-hmm.
where you want to give back.
Yeah.
There's always different ways to do that. And so that's one of the biggest lessons. But the other one is, if you want to get good at something, find someone else that's already there and go and ask them for help. Go and ask them for help. And most likely they'll help you if you're sincere and you show an interest. And the best part about it is eventually you'll be sitting in that place.
Yeah. That's
And then
right.
you
And
can
that's
turn around and extend help to someone else that's
Mhm.
younger, that's learning,
Mhm.
and continue that cycle.
And I feel like that's the blessing right there.
Yeah.
And it reminds me that both Napoleon Hill and Bob Proctor, who I admire, talk about the idea that if you want to make money, then you have to do something that improves other people's lives. And teaching other people how to make money is one of the things they talk about. Have you ever heard that?
I haven't, no, but it's true. It's
Yeah.
so true. I find it so rewarding. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, information that may be biased or
Mm.
intended, but not having the right results.
Mm.
Like we talked about earlier, people that grow up with limiting beliefs, maybe that's how they learned in their environment they grew up in, and there wasn't anyone that intended to do harm, but it was all they knew.
And there are a lot of people too who have transformed. They have learned those lessons ahead of time, like that you were talking about, the idea that these people have already learned. They've had the limiting beliefs, they've overcome them, and then they've learned now what to do and what not to do to help to teach other people.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea to really take a look at the people who you're following and see that they are the real deal, that you can vet people to make sure that you're getting the right kind of information when you go out there. So I think people should be getting their information from you. Where would they go if they were going to follow you for this information?
Thank you. Yeah. I always love sharing ideas and concepts. The best way to connect with me is to go to my website, which is fredmoskowitz.com. You can connect with me. You can send me a message. You can learn about my book, learn about mortgage investing. I have a special report that I'm happy to send out to anyone that wants to request it. Now, if you prefer a little bit easier spelling of my last name, you can go to giftfromfred.com. It's a lot easier to spell. It'll take you right to my website. I always love connecting with investors, building relationships. It's one of the most important things we do. And welcome anyone that wants to connect, reach out, and so much to learn out there for all of us. We are on a lifelong learning journey, every single one of us.
Yes, we
So I
are.
always encourage everyone. Education doesn't stop the day you graduate from school. Continues on.
That's when you get the freedom to learn the things that you really want to learn, the
This
things
is
that are
true.
going to really move the needle for you in your life. So true. And yes, Fred has a book all about the topic of mortgage notes, which was very fascinating to me. So if you want to learn more about that topic, you can get Fred's book. What is it? The Little Green Book of Mortgage Notes?
The Little Green Book of Note Investing.
Of
Yes,
note
available
investing.
on Amazon.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
there's
that.
information on my website as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
I love it. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Fred. We've covered so many topics. And so for people who want to dig more into any of these, yeah, go out there, educate yourself, learn, and get in touch with Fred, and he can help you as well. So thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you, Fred, for being here today.
Thank you for having me on today. Thank you.
Hey, everybody still listening, will you go give a 5-star review to this podcast? Mitzi puts in so much effort and so much love into this. She's brilliant. She deserves it. So I am going to go right now. By the way, by the time you hear this and you go give your 5-star review, you should be able to go find my 5-star review of this podcast. But I just want to thank you for what you're doing.